the extra point unit will go in when we holler, because we're only allowed 24 seconds to go out there and get set. If it's real important, I'll give you a signal for a possible timeout.
Brock ran a very tight ship. He thought that 10 to 40 years of success on the gridiron ought to count for something. New players who thought they were going to do it their way, as told by one of his former players, had a big shock in store for them as their equipment disappeared off the racks, and they had to wait until next year to try out for the team. In the practices seen above, he is running a T formation, but with his signature unbalanced line. Every coach in the conference had to prepare their defenses for Wausau's unbalanced line, a configuration they would not see again all year. Brock's practices were legend. Football players who came back to Wausau after World War II and the Korean War said that basic training was a snap compared to Brock's workouts. His teams were always the best conditioned on the field. In the early days, when the football field was located behind the high school, the Brockmeyers lived across the street. In those days, he made his own practice equipment. He stitched up tackling dummies and filled them with straw and sand. He hung them from ropes and pulleys, which were connected to pails filled with concrete counterweights. He would spend every free minute fixing equipment, resodding the field, painting the lines. As the program succeeded and the budget increased, he could finally buy equipment for his boys. Brock searched for talent far and wide. One year he found a Nagurski sort of kid, a farm boy, whose mother needed him to catch the bus every night to come home and do his chores. That fall, Brock drove him out to the farm after every practice. Always one to lower expectations, Brock would complain to the drugstore coaches about the lack of talent he had this year, how good the other teams in the conference were, and how we would be very, very lucky to stay in the game with them. We were too small, too slow, too inexperienced. We can't catch the ball. We have too many fumbles. These were his mantras at the beginning of each season. Of course, at the end of the season, everyone could be pleasantly surprised.
Same thing. If we're going to move the ball, we have to. We're going to have to be able to throw. We don't quite have the overall team speed. I would say that right now every back that's in the backfield is going to have to be a good blocker. We can no longer have just a tailback, for example, that all he's going to do is run. He's going to have to be. Not only that, if you look over our squad now, practically every kid on this squad is going to have to play both ways. We're going to get the best 11 we can offensively, then the best 11 defensively. And I'm afraid it's going to be probably about 9 who will be both ways, and 2 that'll be probably just one way.
You're concerned, I know, with the schedule in its entirety. But as you know,
with expectations sufficiently lowered, he could get on with the task of producing a team that was going to run right over his conference opponents. A famous story about lowered expectations goes that in 1939, Brock told the Wausau Daily Record-Herald that the basketball team could only beat Rhinelander if Johnny Kotz, later an All-American for Wisconsin, broke his leg. The Hodags walked into the gym that night with Kotz following on crutches. People in Rhinelander still believe that Brock was responsible for Kotz not playing that night. When he had the time and opportunity, he was a master gardener, a grower of flowers, vegetables, and of men. While he had many opportunities to coach in college, he was not an ambitious man. He even turned down an offer to coach with Ivy Williamson. In every game, Brock believed that preparation was the key to victory, and of course, some body English. The chaos of the sideline was his world. He worked it for all it was worth, cajoling, demanding, inspiring. He saw the patterns emerging and put his players in positions to make plays. Constantly thinking, planning, analyzing, Brock was totally absorbed by the game and came home afterward feeling like he had just played 4 quarters on both offense and defense. In 40 years of coaching, Coach Brockmeyer created an outstanding football record. Starting in Minnesota between 1931 and 1937, Brock's teams compiled a record of 41 wins, 8 losses, and 3 ties. Between 1938 and 1971, Brock's teams won 230 times, lost 33, and tied 9. At one time, Wausau went through 46 games without a defeat. During that streak, Wausau scored 744 points, and their opponents crossed the goal line only 6 times. In 1942, Wausau scored 225 points, and their opponents never scored. In 1956, they scored 228 points, and their opponents never crossed the goal line until the last game. He won 87% of his games. He won so often and so convincingly that members of the Wisconsin Valley Conference kicked Wausau out, forcing it to form a new conference, the Big Rivers Conference, which Wausau continued to dominate. Brock sought competition for his teams among the powers of this state, of Minnesota, and of Illinois. The Lumberjacks engaged both Madison teams, East and West, ended a 34-game winning streak by Wheaton, Illinois. In the 50s, Wausau crushed perennial powers Edina Morningside and Minneapolis South. Helen often sat in the stands and took on all comers. No one was going to say anything negative against her Brock.
After the games, when he comes home and I haven't been at the game, we discuss all the kids, and I feel that's kind of one of the joys of being a coach's wife, is being able to talk about these kids and knowing what they've done. And like one of the last games, he said, he came in the house and he said, "Boy, did so-and-so give me a game," and that sort of thing. And I get to hear about the kids and what has happened on the out-of-town games. And we talk lots of times. I wait till the bus comes in. I hear it come in the backyard out here. And when it comes in, I wait for him to come in, and we sit. And lots of times we talk till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's one of the things that Brock and I used to have arguments about, because he'd come home at night and I'd always say to him at the dinner table, he was always, "Mike, you should have done this," and "Mike, you should have done that." And I always said, well, Mike has no comeback. He just comes home and when he's eating dinner, you pick on him out on the field, you pick on him, and he can't say to you, "You don't know what you're talking about," like another kid might say, his dad didn't know much about football and that sort of thing. But Mike didn't have any comeback, and you just have to sit there and take it. And I'd say, at least let him get through his meal without picking on him. And as I said before, Mike is one of those kids, he, as Brock said, if he knocked a kid down, he'd want to go over and pick him up. Say, "I'm sorry," that sort of thing. And he